Alright, and this is the official start of the stream then, because it's 4 o'clock here where I am. So let's get into it. What we are seeing here is an example client. This is the bare minimum that you need to run the PW API connection. Like, it doesn't do anything, it just connects to the game, right?
Right, and I can go ahead and show that again real quick here. So go ahead and start up Brood War, and this is also version 4.4 of Brood War, which is the most recent released version.
Okay, let's talk about a few words about your development environment. What kind of stuff are you using?
Yeah, so this is just Visual Studio 2017. That's pretty much it.
And
I don't really set up any automation for like getting into games or running large amounts of games or anything like that. Usually when I'm developing a bot, I make some changes, just run some games manually, watch it, and see if I broke anything.
So you Windows and Visual Studio, that's it?
Yeah.
All right. So our bot is not doing anything at all at the moment, right?
Correct. It just connects, sees that it's connected, and that's it. The example AI client project that comes with BW API does a bit more, but I went ahead and chopped that off because we're not going to utilize any of it. We are starting from scratch. Going to try and beat the stock AI.
Yeah. So the first thing we need to do is gather minerals, if I'm not very much mistaken. Did you pick a race or just it was just a random one?
That one was just random, but I think I'm going to go with Protoss. Protoss presents a somewhat unique challenge with building placement that I think that I've solved before. I don't remember exactly how I did it though, so we may have to solve it again a little. Because essentially the problem is that with Terran, there's a nice little way to know that your SCV has actually constructed the unit when its order changes because it's paired with the building that just gets created. Zerg, the drone, morphs into the building. Protoss, there's really no way to tell from the probe itself. Whether the building has built or not, its order changes to the exact same thing. So you have to be a little bit more creative with Protoss to make sure that a building has actually plopped down.
All right, so let's start with gathering, right?
Yeah, well, first we're going to do a little bit of organization here, I think. So this is our main int main, and I really don't want to be doing actually much in int main. So we're going to go ahead and add a new file. And this is going to be our main class. So that, and we'll add CPP for it. Cool.
This is actually new for me because I don't really work with Visual Studio. Or C++, for that matter.
Why are we not able to open BW API?
Oh no, we have encountered our first roadblock.
Our first problem. Oh wait, because I need the .h. Okay. So
and Impy immediately commented that C++ is so stinky. Yes, that's an. Thank you for your expert programmer opinion. It's always appreciated.
From what I hear, C++ is so stinky mainly because it has to support everything from C still. So let's see. So what my idea is here with this organization a bit is that we're going to have a class or struct that's actually the bot itself. And that's kind of how DLL bot works, is that your bot is actually an AI module or inherits from that. And that's how your bot exists. And then BW API loads it in. So we're going to do something sort of similar where we're going to construct a bot as a separate class, pull it into our main file here, and actually call functions to do anything there. So first thing we're going to want is an onFrame.
This is for the uninitiated, the method or entry method that is getting executed on every frame of the game. I'm just commenting for absolute people who are absolutely unfamiliar with BW API. But probably our current viewers are not falling into that category, but still.
Cool. And so just as a test to make sure that this is all going to work, I'm just having every frame we're throwing out to Brood War, hello. Sort of like a hello world. And if we... Oh, wait.
Are we sending a message or what?
Yeah, it'll actually output it in game. So we can do this here.
Meat Shield 272 commented that this will be a nice tutorial. Well, we hope so. That is the goal of this. I mean, NiteKat specifically suggested that we start from scratch, and I don't actually have any preference regarding the coding streams. It is always just a glimpse into the author's mind, to be honest, and I without knowing the bot intimately, I can't really direct what should we do, only comment and support emotionally and professionally both.
There will be a lot of emotional support needed here.
Yeah, that's just how it is.
All right, so let's see.
But you mentioned you have your cats ready.
Yeah, there's one laying on the floor near me. Oh, why are we... So now we are not... Oh, whoops, because I put on frame when we're not in game. Helps if I put it in the right spot.
Sorry, Impy, the cat stream and cat video just had to wait. Just have to wait. Please don't unfollow. I will send you pictures of my Shiba plushie. How do you pronounce that? Plush toy, plushie, right?
Yeah, plushie's how I would say it.
Yep.
Okay, there we go. So now we're saying hello every frame, so we know that that is working.
Okay,
Awesome.
and we are spamming every frame a hello message. So yeah, frames we do have a lot of. On fastest game speed it's 29 point something per second, so you should not spam things per frame.
Yes, generally yes. For a test, it may not be bad. What is... Wait. Okay, sorry, that just felt weird, the tabbing there for me. So what I'm setting up here, we're not going to use it right away, but I'm just going to get ready for handling events. Or, whoops. So eventually what we'll want to do is loop through all of the events that we get each frame and then execute our on frame. But we don't need to worry about events for right now.
By events, what do you mean?
So that's like your unit create, unit destroy, unit show, unit hide. Whenever something of relevance happens that BW API particularly calls out. So like at the beginning of the game, you get a create unit for every unit that spawns on the map. You also get a unit complete for every unit that spawns because they're completed. It's also how you can tell that something has finished training without having to look at the unit itself and check all that stuff.
By the way, I think we should have a frame count variable somewhere, because that's usually the first thing you add. You kind of want to know in a lot of places which frame are we on.
Yeah, if you want, we can do a like a debug function here.
Yes, we have on receive text and on new detect as well. I think Hannes implemented the on receive text auto reply when it makes a your mom joke or something like that.
Yeah, I think he also made his bot at one point. I don't know if it still does, but when the game becomes paused, his bot will unpause it and say something rather cheeky.
So I like that.
So let's see. I'll go ahead and thinking of VB syntax here a little bit.
The draw text, it puts out text in the upper left corner by default, right?
I think. I forget where it puts it by default.
Yeah, I think it is. And if you call that multiple times, it just puts it in the same place, and you will get gibberish. So it's not does not concatenate by default. At least that was the state when I last looked at it, I think.
Yeah. We can add string in here real quick. We'll need to anyway eventually, so. Or wait, this needs to be a string stream if I remember right.
String stream, uh-huh. This basically serves the same function as string buffer or string builder in Java, right?
Essentially, it sets up the string as a stream so that I can just add to it with this here.
Yeah, but that's not actually what we want, right?
I forget how. I think can I just pass the string stream to this function? I don't think I can. What does it take?
One way to find out.
Oh, well, first of all, that's not even the right first thing. I need the coordinate type enum C type. Okay.
Is that like screen or unit or something?
Yeah.
Yeah, and we want to draw it on the screen.
Yeah, so we'll just do 0, 0 for now. We can worry about centering later if we want to do something fancy. And now I need to do... Pretty sure I can't just pass it the string stream. Yeah. But I need to remember the right... Does get give us... No.
Do we have a variable for that, or do we have an internal BW API variable for that? I don't think we do.
No, it's looking for a character pointer, basically. So it's looking for const car star for the format. Oh, actually, wait. We could just use... That's right. We can use old C thought process here. D, I think it is. And then we'll do... It's been a while since I've used draw text. So this should work. And then instead of doing hello, we will call debug each frame. So now it should draw this if I've done that right. Each frame. We'll just verify it.
Let's see. Should we set up auto menu for the Chaos Launcher?
I think we'll be all right. Because we don't even have to... There we go. So see, we've got current frame and it's counting up here.
Awesome. So we have that now.
I have to remember, too, that there's a slight delay with what's going on in my stream and what you're seeing. Because a couple of times I've commented and then you're like, oh, okay, I see that. And I'm like, oh, wait, yeah. There's like a second or two delay.
A little bit, yes.
All right. So... Let's go ahead and start working on some stuff to get to mining. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new class here that our bot is going to use. Call it Town.
Town? Why town?
So this will be for base management.
Ah, okay.
And usually I call it base or AI base or something like that. I just feel like being different today.
Well, let me reiterate my earlier statement with Lokitus. How can you do something controversial yet so brave? Name it a farm, he says.
Name it farm. Well, actually, I think, like, if you dig into BW API, even the 4.4, the stuff that's here, there's this BW script emulator, which was an attempt at emulating the stock AI. And it pulls a lot of names, I think, from actually inside of Brood War for things. And a lot of the names just make me think Warcraft. For instance, like they call things town. And I think you can even see that in the old map editor, too. Where it's like, I think the word town is referenced and stuff like that. It's kind of funny.
I'm up to using Warcraft references as much as we can.
Try and see if we can throw in a work complete somewhere. Let's see. Do I want to do a map or a vector for this? We'll do a vector for now. So what I'm setting up here is going to be a container for workers. Actually, we'll call this free workers. And then we'll do, just thinking ahead a little bit, we'll do one for...
Generally, workers who live in containers are not really free, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, I could call this mineral workers, too. I was thinking of free because they will be the workers that are free to do other tasks, potentially, such as building, or things like that. So that's why I was thinking of giving it that moniker.
Yeah, and I was just making a stupid joke. But but maybe available workers would be a better term.
Now I need to decide, am I going to want to be able to, because I set these as private, so only a town object can access them. Do I want to have the town object running itself, or do I want to
That would mean that you have workers assigned to a town object, and will the town object handle every base or just one?
It would be just one base. So there could be coordination issues if they need info about other towns potentially.
But we are not at that point yet. I think it's fine for now.
Yeah, so I'll just make a couple of quick getters. Or actually, I'll just make these public for right now. Did not mean to copy the word private. Okay. So let's add an on start. which is one of the events that will get passed to our bot. Okay, so this is where we're going to want to set stuff up. So let's go. And loop through the neutral units.
So we are looking for a mineral field, right? Which is implemented as a neutral unit in Brood War, or PWE API, I should rather say.
Yeah. Something I'm going to try to do here. Actually, we're going to add into the bot's private here. I'm going to include our town class. No. There we go. Town list. So what we're going to do is we're going to construct all of the essentially little base areas that they could be. So there's in the neutral units.
Sorry, I didn't mean to show that image. I just showed well, it's a dog floating in space with a pizza in the background. This is actually a portrait I commissioned for about my dog, but let's not get deeper into that. Wait, okay, I will show it one more time so you can see it on the stream. Yeah, this is Vitesse the Galactic Pizza Doggo. Yeah, and
Nice.
yeah, I commissioned this image, and I actually have multiple shirts that you can buy if you want, but I did it for myself. Okay, let's get back to the stream.
No problem. I'm actually going to change this to a map. Or, whoops, that's the wrong file. This is the right file. Let's change this to a map. And I'm going to use an int as the key. So neutral units have a nice little field with, since we're not using a map analysis tool, I just forget what the getter is called for it.
What are you looking for?
It is, so the internal Brood War AI kind of groups resources with like an ID that's shared between them if they're close together. So I was going to use that.
How reliable is that?
Hopefully reliable enough for something simple.
I mean, why don't we just get the closest mineral?
Well, I'm trying to set it up for, instead of just doing something like that's super quick and dirty, I'm trying to set this up so that way you'd be able to expand this bot in the future. So that potentially if you wanted to add expansion logic or things like that, it would be set up to be able to do that. But is it get resource group? Resource group, that's it. So we're going to compare this.
Not everyone can be super quick and dirty.
Well, what I consider that to be is like you would take like extreme shortcuts, or like you said, like let's just grab the closest mineral to a worker and send them there. Like, yeah, we could do that, and we're mining minerals now, but then you're going to have a lot harder time doing things in the future. Like, say you want to run an expansion and your main base, and you want to balance workers between the two. That might be tricky to do if you're just grabbing the closest mineral to a worker, kind of thing. So yeah, it's definitely doable, and could be done for this particular goal of just trying to beat the stock AI. But like I said, I want us to be able to have this be expandable.
I think that's a commendable goal, and especially that bot development is a never-ending story. So if you start it, you should set up the architecture in a way that modifying and adding new functionality don't cause you to pull your hair out. And always code as if the guy who ends up maintaining your code will be a violent psychopath who knows where you live.
Yeah, I'm not commenting much though on this, so that psychopath can still come visit me.
I don't know. Like comments are interesting issue. The common wisdom is you should comment and document your code, but in my experience, the problem is that comments are need to be maintained in the same way as actual code does. So that means that no, you shouldn't comment everything. You should write code that is understandable and well structured, and comment when something is not obvious from reading the code. Hey Dan. Dan arrived.
Hello. Hello, Dan. It's Dan. All right, so now let's do some quick output here. Just to make sure that we're getting something that seems reasonable. So output again to the screen. I mean, another thing that we could do too, since we are a client bot, instead of doing output to the screen, we can use cout in the console. So we could easily do something like let's see. Like this instead of printing out to the screen. So now when we play and attach, I should probably start building the bot first because that seems to take a moment for some reason. Okay, and then we load something up. I'll just load Astral Balance, that's fine. I am counting 0 towns for some reason.
Oh, that's not good. So in the meantime, I'm replying to Dan. Yeah, I'm basically in agreement with you. I'm I'm very flexible on that opinion, but that's just my professional experience that you should try to write less comments and only do it for clarification and not explaining the code. Like sometimes you see methods commented, like getters and setters commented. Why? Who does that help? What's the purpose?
If it's a slightly more complicated getter, I could see a comment for it, but if it's something like get X or get this whole container,
Okay.
I don't think that necessarily needs to be commented.
I posted in the chat the how to write unmaintainable code link in Reacted. How did I manage to follow this without knowing it exists?
Nice.
That's nice.
So I realized that probably the reason why we weren't counting any towns is because I wasn't calling the code I just wrote. Because what I did was I set it up as an onStart function. So the intent is that now we're going to use this event loop that we have here. And when we get the match start, we're going to run that code by calling our bot.onStart. And essentially, as far as converting a DLL bot to 5.x, this is the kind of architecture that you would want to do. So you could take your existing class that inherits from AI module and just declare it inside of a function like this, and then call the functions when you need to in the event loops and on your on frame. And that would take care of at least that portion of converting.
I see. That's yeah, it's actually helpful. And do we have towns?
Here we go. Forgot I had left StarCraft running, so.
Oh yeah, I make that mistake all the time. I always promise
So
myself
yeah.
that I will
So
streamline the launch, and I never do. Oh, one.
we are counting 8 towns, which I believe for this map should be reasonable. I have user control off, so I can't enter cheats to double check, but actually, well, now that I've stopped it, I think I can. No, I still can't control. That's right.
Yeah, with BWAPI you can enable user input, and that means that you can control your units alongside your bot, and you can enter cheats. This is mostly for debug purposes, not any. Yeah, like in tournaments, you obviously can't do that.
Yeah, you'll be connecting not to StarCraft itself directly, but usually through another bot that acts as a go-between. Or if you're a DLL bot, there will be a go-between DLL, essentially, that will block certain messages to the game, such as enabling flags. Which in 5.x is going to work a little bit different. We're kind of removing the ability to pass flags, and it'll be in the config file. So that way, tournaments don't even have to worry about that, because it's just if it's not in the config file, then that flag's not going to be enabled. But for now, let's go ahead and enable that, which I think we can do on start.
Let's debug that part as well, shall we?
Oh, now we're getting 13 towns. That's interesting. Oh no,
That's
I did a different map.
13. Yeah, that's 13
Huh?
base locations. I guess that's possible.
For some reason, I can't enter. Oh,
What's
I
the
think
problem?
I think I have to pass whatever I type along. That's right. I forgot about that.
By the
Because I
way,
think I'm.
can we display the map name? That would help. I mean, not us,
Yeah.
but for the audience, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, that actually would be pretty helpful. So let's do that. Let's go.
We are doing an entertainment show, man.
Sometimes I feel the compiler ignores my comments.
Best comment I ever read.
So.
Or when I was starting at the job, literally the first class file I opened, it was a big bloated mess, and the first comment I saw was to do semicolon not this, and thank you, that's helpful.
What's the map name function?
Let me look that up quick. Well, I did something like that, but I'm not sure it's the same here.
Is it just... Oh, there we go. There's map file name. That should be enough. Or is there a map name? Map name. There we go.
Yeah, it's map file name in Java as well. Although I'm using an older version of BWAPI 4J, so that's not really up-to-date information.
Oh. Well, yeah. I see why that didn't work. That is a string or something, isn't it? E.
What is it then?
So the way this is designed to work like old C printf functions and such. So I actually have to pass it a C string or car star instead of a string. I just forgot to add that on. So basically, Brood War was seeing garbage.
This is the aforementioned supporting legacy stuff from C++.
Yeah. So there we go. Now we have the map name up here too.
Awesome.
And we're seeing, and this is just Blizzard's astral balance, so there should be.
We are not even doing the official SCIT map pool.
Yeah, well, we're just testing really basic stuff, so right now, so it doesn't matter what map we load really. But there should be eight building locations on this map, which I believe checks out because this is a pretty small map, if I recall correctly. So we should be good there. So just what I'm doing there basically is looping through all of the static neutral units. And actually, I should probably do a check here. And I created a map called Town List, where the key is an integer. And so what I'm using is this resource group as the key for the towns. And if it doesn't exist, then it'll get created by this line. And if it does, then nothing will happen. It'll just go, okay, this one already exists. But then I do want to add the resource to that town, so I know it's a part of it. So that's why I have this town equals the return of this, because it'll either return a new town or an already existing one.
And I'm assuming that we need some kind of identification, which is our starting base, right?
Yeah, but we do get that from our start position, so we can add that as a piece of info. Oops. Oh, yeah, that's right. It's under get type is mineral field.
You might as well add some logic that we only mine from our assigned town object, so the workers don't wander off and long distance mine if that's not our intention.
Yep, and that's why I have the lists for workers in the town object. So that way, when we go, okay, are there any idle workers that should be mining? We can go, okay, you're assigned to this town. There are these minerals. Go to the closest one of those, or something along those lines. Is there a general? Is resource? No, it's. I don't think his refinery is true for Vespine geysers, so just do it this way.
Yeah, I believe that's the actual refinery building, not the geyser. Yeah.
And now Steve's gonna yell at me for a second because gas doesn't exist yet. We're gonna go ahead and add that. So that'll track any Vespine geysers that get assigned.
Since we have a town object, if we have some kind of building placement in SimCity, we should definitely call that suburbs.
I like it. Let's see. So now if we do want to, let's go. We'll do that, and then we're gonna need a quick constructor here. Let's see if I can remember how to do this. Now, oh yeah, that's right. I think I just do that for an initializer list. There we go. Okay. So what I'm adding here, because like you said, we should probably track which one we're starting in so that we know. So I just added a boolean for that, and I'm initializing it whenever a town object is created to false. We're going to assume it's not, and then here we're going to go. Let's get auto you or get closest units from our start position.
Might as well, yeah, for the towns we should keep track of the resources within, so even though those units we don't control directly.
Filter this mineral field. Oh wait, get start location is a tile position, so I need to
Wait, what's the issue here? Different, yeah, I get a position as a starting position, right? And we for the bases we have a different kind of object, but I assume that object has a position variable somewhere, which is likely equal to the start position. Or if not, which we can just look up the closest.
Yeah, so what I'm doing here is I'm going to find the closest mineral field to our start location, but start location stored as a tile position, so I just have to cast it to a position, which will just convert it for me. And then I'm going to get so auto start town is going to equal town list u get resource group, because we've already gone through all of the minerals. And then that start town dot starting equals true. So this should ID our starting town, because we created all of them and indexed them by the resource group of the minerals. The closest mineral to our start position should be in the town that we are starting in, unless it's like a use map settings or something extremely weird, like maybe Chrysalis would break this. Actually, Chrysalis would probably break just about anything. So then we can just pull the right town out from the closest minerals resource group and then flag that one as, okay, this is our starting town.
Sounds good.
Let's see. And just to let's do or draw text. Just to test this, we'll do coordinate type, enum. And see, even though like I haven't made like a whole lot of changes and our bot still isn't doing anything, I'm still doing something to test this change that I made. So actually we're gonna do a for loop here. Do or auto, yeah, we'll do this, and then town list dot. Oh no, wait, I gotta loop through the towns. That's right, because I don't have a particular thing to pull out my starter yet, but that's all right. So if t dot starting dot second dot starting, then for auto t dot second dot minerals. So what I'm going to do here really quick, is just pull out the town that I flagged as starting, and then over top of each mineral, just draw a little text just to say, hey, this is indeed the starting town.
We can even draw something on the screen to debug that, but I think that should work. Maybe let's not put the debug before the horse or something like that.
Well, I'm going to delete this probably once. I just want to verify that this is actually ID'd right. But what did I... There's error. The function. Oh. It's just .y. Those are not functions. Those are just members. And see, now I am suspicious that that did not work because we are not.
Wait, did we order our? We didn't do anything. We just draw text. Yeah, we just drawing that I'm starting with.
Oh, we are not adding minerals. That's interesting.
That's quite suspicious. Is it possible that the minerals are created after the on start?
No, on start you should have access to. I mean, we're creating the town, so we're definitely looking at the units. Because this line here has to run.
Hi Jaegers, welcome to the stream.
So this is one of the things I like about Visual Studios. I'm able to just put a breakpoint and let's step through it and see what happens.
I don't know, do you need to initialize the town list itself? Like
You know what, I wonder...
Like I'm very much thinking in Java, so that's not really, might not really be true, but did you initialize the list itself, or do you need to do that in C++?
No, it should, because it's using the standard template library, the vector starts empty. I'm probably doing something weird with copies and or const. I'm thinking. Or is this becoming a copy instead of the actual item? Because if I look here, this temp variable town actually has the mineral, but in town list, it doesn't have the mineral. So yeah, I think town is
Pointer.
becoming a copy.
Do we need to use a pointer?
Or a reference. Reference will probably fix it. Whenever I make mistakes like this, I always fondly think of McRave. Because I remember one of his big bot issues was making a copy of things. And I think it was like a year or year and a half ago that was a problem, but I still think back to it because I do the exact same thing. So now we're adding it to town, and okay, now it's there. So yeah, this was actually becoming a copy as opposed to a reference to the item contained in town list. So I believe that was the problem.
I actually did a smart here. Okay, so we have minerals right now. The one thing left to do is just to order our workers to mine it, right?
Well, we're still failing to ID a starting town.
Oh, I missed that part.
But we did fix the mineral problem, so that's good. So now we'll have to step through... Whoops, did not want to restart. Stop. We're going to have to step through these 3 lines of code. Oh, it's the same problem.
Oh no, who would have thought?
If this created a copy without the ampersand, then we need to create a copy without the ampersand. Okay. But see, this is why... oh, StarCraft is already running. I like to debug even with small changes because it may not work the way that you were thinking it's going to work when you write the code. Usually I get suspicious if something works the first time.
Stress-driven development.
There we go. So now these are being... I'm a starting min. So now we know we've identified the base appropriately. Cool.
Now?
So now we're going to want to grab our starting workers and put them in the start town. You or self units Actually, wait, isn't there a way to...
I think there is an isWorker. Get workers, I don't think so, but there is an isWorker for the unit class, so you don't need to match the exact worker type.
I think we can do... I don't know, get best units only can return a single unit.
Get.
I'm trying to make use of built-in filters a little bit more when I do stuff with BW API, just in general. Because that was something when I started, I did a lot of like manual looping and manual checking of things. And then when I looked at the code for like ZKBot, for example, like very clever usage of filters, I'm like, I want to do stuff like that, but I don't remember all of that will return unit sets versus single units. Can this? No, this is just going to return everything. I can't filter that. So just looking for a filterable version units. Although it wouldn't be bad to just loop through our own units because we're only going to have like
let's just do that first, then
yeah.
let's show how it works.
I like what MP said. When in doubt, just do it yourself. You can always do the developer thing and improve this, yo.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna leave that there now. But so what we'll do is if you get type or I think this has a .isWorker. Yeah. Then we will want to...
Although if you have workers from multiple races, then this might be a problem, but that is not really an issue right now.
Yeah, I mean, using the generic thing would allow this to work for, say, like Team Melee or Team Free-for-all modes. And you'd have to, in your building logic, which actually we could even put it in there, check, like, can this worker actually build the building we want? So that way it would be able to handle multiple races at the same time. So I'll push back you.
That's quite far away, so...
Yeah.
I don't think we will implement Dark Templars stealing workers anytime soon.
Well, we could always just hop into the Team Melee mode, and then we've got SCVs, drones, and probes right from the start.
But anyway.
Okay. Now we are good, I think, to maybe try and... Actually, what we should probably do, just for ease of mind here, we should probably do a STV shared PR. Set up a town pointer here. Eventually, we'll want to just loop through the town list because we may have expansions and such, but since we're just going to be one basing it for right now, let's set something up so that we can very quickly reference our starting town. Did I name that start town? Yeah, okay. Will it be okay assigning that to shared pointer? No. What brands are that?
Unfortunately, I can't comment on that issue.
Dress of. Does that work? No. I mean, I could just make it a town pointer, but I like smart pointers better. We'll just make it a dump pointer for now. We'll set ourselves up for crashes later. That sounds like fun. Okay. Start. Cool. So now let's go ahead and loop through our free workers in our starting town. So for start town, free workers. And for right now, the only thing we make them do is mine. So if is idle, we'll go ahead and tell it to gather at the closest mineral. So we'll do, or actually, want to do that, or
Yeah, the team melee mode can be wacky, but I don't think that's our main goal here. Like the goal of the stream is to write something that can beat the stock AI or maybe win a game or two, right? That's I think a little bit ambitious goal for the time we have, but it's not impossible.
Yeah, and we can. I'm not committing you to anything, but like if we do future streams, say on this particular project, we can expand it, or I may just expand it in my free time to do other things. But the idea here is set yourself up so that you're not pigeonholing yourself from the start and then have to go back and rework entire systems of your bot in order to support new things.
Although the level of generalization is can be overshot. Like I think it's quite alright if we only write a 1v1 melee bot for the time being.
Yeah, I gotcha. So what I'm doing here is I'm just going to loop through our free work. If they're idle and not doing anything, I'm going to tell them to, and we have minerals in our base. I'm going to say, hey, go ahead and gather at, I'm just going to target the first mineral for now, which is not going to do any kind of fancy split, but that's fine.
Yeah, we are not implementing any kind of mineral locking or improved mining algorithms at the moment.
Yeah.
Because there are many. There is the famous article on the Team Liquid forums, which is dedicated to improving the mineral gathering rate. I often revisit that article.
Oh, I deleted one too many characters there. The build failed. Okay, so up, we're connected, cool. Let's go ahead. Awesome. And so as we can see, we went ahead and mined. So we should probably go ahead, close that, and produce some probes too. We should probably get that going. So let's go ahead and add another tracker into this town here.
Oh yeah, there is actually an academic paper as well about resource gathering in StarCraft.
Yep, it's very interesting, especially too because the mining time can vary ever so slightly. It's a very interesting problem to look into.
Yeah, someone commented that things would be much easier if units didn't span out after issuing multiple commands. Yeah, they would be. And you have like there are dropped commands and there are some weird stuff if you issue the same command for in consecutive frame, the unit can lock up. And also, despite that, you have a maximum effective APM that you can issue after which Broodword simply just drops all the commands.
I'm gonna go ahead and drop this town list output here, just so that we're not spamming the console. Oops, wait, no, don't build just yet. Okay, so now I'm tracking our starting building in with the start town. So now I can also loop through those and make macro decisions. So start town, buildings, view is idle. So if it's idle, we'll probably want it to do something. And then we can do switch statement on that's type. Or actually, before we do that, let's just check if it's a source. Get type. That's a dot. Is resource.
Oh yeah, big thanks to Hannes Bradberg who set up an RTMP server for us, because for some reason I couldn't set it up, probably my in ISP settings, but whatever. So thanks, Hannes.
Okay, now here I'm going to start to deviate a little bit from the being very generic on the race that we're dealing with, and I'm just going to explicitly put probe here.
Dan has a quite few good comments about mining, which I'm not gonna get into, even though they are very good points, because this is not the scope of this stream right now. But briefly, yeah, distribution of workers, locking, only assigning the gas workers you need, and not losing frames of mining by spamming the gather command. Yes, all very good points, but we are not going that deep this time. Or do we, NiteKat?
Yeah, more than likely we're not going to go that deep.
But yes, that's something you should absolutely research if you're writing a bot. And yeah, there are untapped potential in that field still.
Yeah, I would say certainly starting out, it's not a problem that you need to worry about right away. There's a lot of other fundamentals, as you can see, that you need to get down. For instance, like, okay, great, now we've kind of organized the map a little bit. We have, you know, bases sort of identified. We have our workers gathering, even if they're all starting at the same mineral. But we could have a perfect split and perfect mineral locking with 4 workers, and it's not going to do much. So there's a lot of different kind of like basics, I would say, that you need to get going first before you start doing things like mineral locking.
There are endless optimization potential here.
Yeah, and I would even say too that in terms of combat, you can get away with a lot with just using attack move before you start putting in and worrying about fancy micro with your units.
I mean, even in human land, in human matches, a lot of not pro gamers, but high-ranking gamers just use attack move. They become good macro players and just produce the enemy. You can get away with that for a surprisingly long time.
Yeah, I think there was, when my bot first came on the scene, this wasn't even like intended at all, but up against Crazio, there was like, it hit this timing with its macro where sometimes, more often than not it didn't, but sometimes it could overpower him with like a mix of bio and mech attack, because it just hit this timing on accident with its macro, and it just did attack move. And I think like some sieging and unsieging of tanks. So you can do a lot with that, especially if you're going to be going up against humans who are not going to have that perfect macro.
Never underestimate 200 Zerglings.
Exactly. Unless maybe you've got fire bats on your side.
That or 2 Wraiths, as a famous game of dance demonstrated. Alright, what are we doing?
So now I'm setting up the logic for our Nexus to build some probes, and I'm trying to remember the function for checking our supply. Oh wait, I think it's just supply. Yeah, okay.
And inside BW API, supply value is actually doubled, so
yeah,
you need to account for that. Doubled in comparison to the displayed value on the UI, which, if you think about Zerglings and Scourge, makes sense.
Though actually, I think we can do something like this. So we can set up a variable for probes. And then that way I don't have to type the really long thing. I can just do unit type dot get, or what is it, supply required. And I think that does it in the doubled, if I'm remembering right. Let me check the wiki on it real quick. Unit types. Let's see here. Supply required. Oh, it actually doesn't. That's interesting. The github.io doesn't have supply required on the unit information. But it does have supply provided. Oh wait, I'm looking at a building.
Yeah, maybe it is called something different, like supply used or, but I'm pretty sure you have a variable for that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely on the unit type supply required. I just don't remember offhand if it does double. So like for probe, will that return 1 or 2? Because we want it to return 2. Actually, I'm going to rename this.
I'm almost sure it does.
Okay. So now this should just build probes until it can't build probes anymore. Oh, well, it helps if I set the race, right?
Yes, definitely does. Although the gathering logic seems to work. I think we didn't see the gathering logic in action so far.
Ooh.
Oh, an exception.
Free workers.
What is the exception itself?
That you... Wait, what was it? U was null pointer. But...
did you assign... Yeah, you assigned the free workers. Do we have a same issue as with the minerals?
Oh. No, I know what the problem is. So... And we can add logic to this later, but because I loaded up the wrong race in game 1, I just exited Brood War and restarted because the client would recognize the disconnect from the game and then reconnect when the game came back up.
Oh, and then it auto-cast to that type, right?
Well, no, we don't clear out any of this information that we're building in the bot. So we don't.
Oh yeah, I see. Okay, it was a different thing then.
So it was trying to reference the old unit information.
Okay, then just restarting should work this, right? Well, yeah. Should work at this time.
We just need to go Protoss. Oh, and if I click the right thing. So there we go. So now we're training probes. Speed 10. We could probably do speed 0. And so now these guys are being idle because we're not adding to the town. But yep, we produced until 9. We don't have any error messages popping up. It's not trying to build more probes. So what we've designed is working.
Yes, yes. This is definitely we have mineral gathering.
Now we're going to want to add those workers to the free workers. So let's do, we're going to need to cover a new event. So we're going to do on unit complete. We're going to need to pass this something.
On unit complete is another entry point by Brood War API. well, it does what it describes. When a unit is completed, then it is triggered. Although you have to keep in mind that units in production can still be accessed, but most commands won't work on them. And that is a mistake that I made a lot of times, that I was trying to issue commands to units that are not actually on the map right now.
Yeah, and it won't actually like break Brood War if you do that. Those units come across on unit create. But yeah, if you're expecting a unit to go defend you and it can't because it's still being trained, that could cause other problems because of logic.
And yeah,
So
if you are saying, yeah, if I have 10 zealots, then I should attack, you should definitely not count the zealots in production.
Yeah. Let's see. So how did we add? Okay. So we're gonna want to. So we're gonna go ahead and get the closest mineral field to the worker that completes. And we want filter is mineral field. Because we are going to then do.
But wait, don't we want to do that only with the mineral fields in the current town?
Well, it's possible that perhaps a town that's out of mineral fields.
You will get the closest mineral fields, but if your starting position is out of minerals, then this will just direct the unit to the next closest mineral.
Right. But what we're doing here is we're just using the closest to assign the work to a town. So in theory, if you're building workers at a town that has minerals, the closest mineral should be in that town. But like you said, if it's out of minerals, it'll still get assigned to a town instead of just sitting there idle. It might be possible that we would want to produce, like, say, the main's out and we need to plop a structure in there. So we want to produce a worker in there real quick to do that or something. But that's like such a situational thing that I'm not.
No, I mean,
at the moment.
I mean the closest unit. You just check the whole map, and instead of that, you should filter the town's minerals. No.
Well, this will still grab the closest one. So what I'm doing is I just need a mineral because the towns are indexed by the resource group of minerals right now. So I'm just saying, when you get completed, what is the closest mineral to where you are? And that's the town I'm going to put you in.
But that can happen that you don't have any minerals in the town when where you no, the other way around. You assign it to a town, but you don't have a resource depot in that town. So in effect, you will long distance mine with this.
Once we start looking at towns beyond the start town, that could be possible. But more than likely, if we're in a situation where all of our bases are out of minerals, we're probably not going to be producing workers. We're probably dead at that point. So yeah.
Yeah. So if you send, you're saying that it is very rare that you will send a worker to a base which has no resource depot and minerals.
Well, there could be a second check because I see what you're saying. Because maybe we expand on the other side of the map and not to the closest town, or maybe the closest town was expanded and then it got destroyed and we had a third or a second expansion that's still alive. And so yeah, this is a little bit dumb in terms of the logic that we're using. It'll work for now though.
Why don't we feel free to overrule that, but why don't we do that the other way around? Check the unit's position get the closest town and assign to a mineral patch in that town.
We can, but we'll need to add more logic into town, because right now town doesn't care about where it's positioned at all. We haven't like assigned a position to them, which is something that we can do. But I've been terrible at the past in trying to figure out where to plop down like a resource depot. That's something that I've always used as a crutch with the map analysis tools. Is okay, this is where my building should go.
Also, we don't really have a logic for if the mineral field is depleted.
Right, for right now at least.
Yeah, but we should have eventually, because wouldn't that cause a null pointer exception? Like you're sending a worker together a mineral from the town, and if that mineral field is depleted, then you will send it to a null pointer or an existent unit. I don't know if that will cause a null pointer, but you will send it to a place which is not existing.
Well, we should be fine, because we have in our logic for mining, if there are minerals in the town, then tell it to gather. So if there are no more minerals in the town that a worker's assigned, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah, but if a mineral field is depleted, we don't. Do we refresh the town object?
Not yet. So that will need to be added.
Okay.
Which we can do right now. So, because that's just another event that we'll have to use. So, I think that's on unit destroy, if I'm remembering right. The other thing is too, there's probably multiple places here where I should be checking for null pointers and I'm not. So don't do that, kids.
Always check your null pointers, yes.
Come on, guys, I found it. You're re-referencing a null pointer.
Yes.
I know that's not the exact quote, but... So... The other thing is too, actually, I think the minerals, they don't become null pointers when a mineral field becomes empty, if I remember right. It just isn't going to do anything because it's an invalid target, but that's still a problem.
Just get rid of it in the town object. Does the ID of the mineral unit ID of the mineral field changes throughout the game? Not likely, right?
Right, it does not.
And with BWAPI 5, will that change? I know that the enemy unit IDs will change when you detect them, but how about resource IDs?
I know that IDs changing are definitely on the list of to-dos. I don't know, though, for sure if it's actually going to be done, because I know there's a lot of controversy about that. But honestly, right now, it's something that we haven't put too much, or at least I haven't put too much looking into for, so I can't say one way or the other.
Alright, but now it definitely does not change. So we can safely assume that if this gets triggered, we can just filter by the ID of the mineral and just remove that from the minerals assigned to the mineral field list in the town object. That was a long sentence.
I think, can I do it this way? No, because I need an iterator. Okay. Minerals not fine. Oh wait, this is a vector, so I don't have that. We'll just do it this way. Not efficient, but it'll work.
By the power of lambdas. I have a very ambivalent relationship with lambdas. It's all fun and games until you need to debug.
Wait, I still need an iterator for erase, don't I? Yeah, that's not gonna work. Okay, I just gotta change this to
By the way, I'm trying to figure out who is the user Meat Shield in the chat. I guess he's a bot author as well.
I forget the name of your bot, Meat Shield. I know it was Zerg. And it was like, it did like the...
Oh yeah, okay, it's...
What was your bot's original name?
Qnibot.
It had a different name at first.
Meet AI module. I like that.
And we should also take care of if our workers die.
Yeah, might as well.
Because I'm sure that will eventually happen a lot. Except we're going to need this a little bit different.
Well, you need to remove them from the town's assigned workers, right?
I think we got a better way to do this. Instead of doing this on unit destroy, when we are going through our workers, if you...
Yes, since we are doing that anyway in our in every frame.
Yeah, I think isn't there an is alive or exists? I think is what I want. So if it doesn't exist, oh wait, if we delete in this for loop, that might be awkward.
That yeah. No, let's use the on destroy, I say, because that's the proper place. That's and if it destroys, the on destroy gets called earlier than the on frame, right? Actually, I have no idea, but yeah, it should.
Yeah, it will. Says we have here our event loop and then on frame, and then we update the client to allow the game to advance a frame.
So yes, then we should definitely do it in the on destroy method.
The thing is that we have to, the reason I was trying to avoid this is because we have to loop through each town's free mineral list in order to try and find this unit right now. Which we could probably improve that. Instead of using an STD vector, I could probably use an STD map and then use the unit IDs as keys and then just do finds.
In my bot, yep. But for now, I don't think that really matters. We have CPU power on our side. Yeah, I do that as well. I have a map with unit types and IDs. Actually, I have multiple maps for this exact reason.
And that's part of why I did like the wait, yeah, that's right, because this needs a dot second. And actually, I should just do this with a find replace. So I want dot minerals. That should be dot second dot free workers. Because it's pretty much the exact same logic for deleting minerals, except we're looking at free workers.
Well, not just free workers in the long run, because you I think you assigned
yeah, it could be gas too. Yeah,
gas workers. Yeah, so every worker.
So this and then
we are just gathering minerals and it already becoming complicated.
Yep. But this is what you do is you try and think, if you kind of plan out what are all of the problems, or at least what do I think are all the problems I'm going to have to solve in order to accomplish X. Then you can start, as you're working on the smaller parts, setting yourself up with a framework that will help you further down the line that you get. So when we do worry about gas workers, we don't have to worry about deleting them if they die because we've already set that up. So this, instead of free workers, we're going to replace it with gas workers. Okay. And then I also have returns here. So if it's going to say, hey, is this a mineral field? If it is, it's going to loop through. Once it deletes, we'll exit out of this function. And then,
Sorry to be a little bit thorough here, but can't we just iterate through, like we have two loops here? Oh no, that's fine. Never mind.
yeah, because they're separate containers.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's still on time to do that, linear time to do that. Okay, fine, never mind.
Yeah. For right now too, I'm also kind of trying to avoid writing a wrapper around things. Because while I have it separated, like, okay, so a town is tracking units under free workers for like minerals and builders, and then gas workers for gas gatherers, you could write a class that would wrap around the WAPI unit class and like have a field like, is this a mineral worker? Is this a gas worker? So that would be a different approach as well. And I'll probably need to do something like that for enemy units eventually, maybe. But I'm just trying to avoid that for now, just for personal preference. But that is another way to go about it too. So then that way you would have one container that you would loop through workers. But then when you're trying to find a worker to complete a task or to see if you need additional gas workers, it might get tricky. So you kind of like simplicity in one area, and then you add complexity in another by doing that. Now let's make sure we actually call these new functions.
Yeah, there is balance in everything. It's like, but in this case, it feels like the trade-off that if you're if it's like your if one of your legs is shorter than the other is longer, so in the end it's balanced.
Yeah, there's actually one other thing I just thought of that to our functions we just wrote, but let me get them called first here. Okay, so now we should also check if this unit is even ours to begin with.
Oh yeah, because we call it in every case. Yeah, one unit destroyed triggers every time a unit destroys, and it is a little bit embarrassing that we missed that because we actually started with looking at the mineral field. So yeah, for the mineral fields we don't need to look at that, but for the workers we do need to.
Yeah, but it doesn't help to. Oh yeah, that's right. We would want to put that check down here. Another thing that I've done a little bit different from the example project 2 is it has using BW API, so it doesn't have to type BW API : before everything BW API related. I just like doing that because I feel like it pollutes the namespace a lot, or the namespace space. So to me, it's not too bad to have to type BW API : before everything.
It's more of a matter of preference than anything, I believe.
Yeah, one other thing that's nice too is that it does let you have some. So like, say I wanted to name something Brood War. If I have using namespace BW API, I can't. Now that's a silly example because you're probably not going to name something Brood War, but maybe you have your own unit class. You would have to then specify the scope of your unit class, and it could get messy. So if you have to explicitly do BW API unit, and then you could have like bot unit, what's what, and you could use the same name if you wanted to.
In the meantime, before we continue, I need a 5-minute break. Can we have that quickly?
Yeah. Are you gonna put up like a break thing, or am I good to just keep coding?
If you want, you can keep coding, but I can put up the Galactic Pizza Doggo as well.
Okay.
So then please feel free to keep coding, and I will be back within 5 minutes.
Sounds good.
And I am back.
Welcome back.
So, what did we do in the meantime?
Not too much. I verified. I can run it again real quick here.
Oh, wait a sec. I forgot a very important thing that I actually promised to do. So now it's time for a little bit of advertisement. Not advertisement, a shout out. So I would like to thank my very first patron, which is Bruce Nielsen, the same who I had the last coding stream with. And I would like to thank every future patron of mine as well, because this allows me to do these streams and much more that I do. And that's enough of that. Let's continue with this.
Cool, cool.
Yeah, you can find the link just in the Twitch stream description. Okay, let's go.
Cool, cool. So just to show you real quick, I verified that all the that we did for getting the workers to mine after completing worked. So I was going to move on to the next thing we need to solve. Protoss. So we can see here the new ones pop out and they start mining minerals. But now we hit a roadblock because we can't build any more probes and we can't produce any military or anything, so we need to start on structures.
And this is the time when we should consider assigning some kind of quota for the number of workers we have. Or might as well have some kind of unit quotas in general. Am I right?
Yeah, we can do something super simple. So we can just add an int here, desired workers. This will be for free workers, not for gas.
Yeah, that's fine for the moment.
Yeah, so in here, we probably won't want to do it here, but in on start, after we've added all of the minerals, wait, where's our on start? Here we go. Okay. So we can just do here, I believe. So for auto town, need to loop through our town list, and we can just say, actually probably don't even need brackets because we can just do town second dot desired workers equals, just for something that works relatively well, minerals dot size. So we'll get 2 workers for each mineral patch that we have. That's how many we want at a base. And then we can even add in our frame as an additional condition here. Actually, this should be up top. I don't know why that's a separate if there. We can say and, oh, but we have no way of knowing what town this is in. Okay, so we won't need the brackets back. And we should probably just write a helper function for this, so because we're gonna have to do this more than once. So we're gonna want town reference. Unit U.
Is this find the assigned town or find the town that the unit is in?
This is to find the assigned town, so I can name that a little more clearly, because that makes sense. Find assigned town.
Generally, you should avoid, I mean, not you specifically, but this is Oracle advice time. Like, you should avoid naming your methods something general like find, handler, or find is okay, but handler, factory, and such, because then you will just bunch everything in there.
Yeah, it's good to make sure that it's clear, but when I originally named it, I wasn't thinking, oh, we might, write a helper function for assigning a town to a unit or seeing just where this unit is. But we probably would if we had the time. So it is better to name this find assigned town. Also, I'm just going to... Actually, this should probably be a pointer, not a reference, because if we don't find a town, we want to be able to indicate that. So for instance, if this isn't a worker, at least for now, we're not assigning anything else. So if it's not a worker, we're going to want to return a null pointer.
Yeah, if we don't find anything, that something is very wrong then. I mean, if it's a worker and we don't find a town, it shouldn't happen, but that's not something you should say when developing.
And we need something, it'll yell at us anyway that not every path has a return if it's a reference. So we need something to return by default regardless, which if we make it a pointer, we can just return a null pointer. We could also have some way of indicating whether a town is valid, return reference to like a town that's constructed that way or something, but pointer will be easier and more prone to crashes, so let's go for it.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
Exactly. Oh, W, we're gonna go through the free town dots, not free workers. if you I have to do address of town. No. Oh, that's second. Like that. Yes. Probably don't need the curly braces, but I just like there when it's more than one line.
I always put them. It's quite error prone if you don't.
Yeah, like when it's a single line, I'm fine. Not like for the if statement, for instance. I don't mind it, but
Then you add the log message and fuck up everything.
I think I've had that happen before.
But
So
this is something that seemingly C++ developers like to do, like skip the curly braces. In my limited sample size, that's the experience.
And then we'll probably have one more loop that we'll come back to for this later. We just don't have the tracking built for it. Because what I'm thinking is if a worker goes off to build something, we're going to need to track that worker too. So let's see. Now I'm trying to remember why we were building this exactly. Why did we need to find somebody's town? Grace. Something in here? Oh, for desired workers in OnStart. That's right. Or was it that? Do you remember why we wanted to build that?
I don't know, the desired worker variable name just conjures an image of a lumberjack with six-pack abs. I can easily distract myself. So, desired workers is the target number of workers we want to produce in that base, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to find our on frame. Here we go. That's right. So we needed to check that. We need to get the town. Get assigned. We need to get the town of the resource depot so that we know how many free workers it has to know if we want to produce another one or not. So find assigned a town of this if town and town workers is less than town desired workers. Then we'll go ahead and train the probe. Except it doesn't. Oh, because this needs to be dot size. Can't compare a vector to an int. Okay. So now what this is doing, this allows us, okay, if all the conditions are met to build a probe, then we're going to get the town that this nexus is in, and we're going to say, is that town full up on workers or not? If it's not, then we'll go ahead and train the probe.
Sounds good.
We should probably just double check to make sure we didn't break anything. Oh, and we have, is that because, oh, that's because of what I did here.
I was thinking of setting up some kind of continuous integration for bot development, but it is quite hard because often you don't really know what do you want to verify exactly. Like the condition, nothing is broken. It's a fuzzy term, and yeah, for functional stuff you can write unit tests and such, but.
Yep, but see, we're not producing any more probes, so...
Yeah, something went wrong.
Yes. So we'll just do debugging breakpoint there and rerun the bot. And then start StarCraft. use astral balance. Protoss. Okay, so let's see here. Do we find a town? We do not find a town, so that's where... Oh. Well, yeah, okay, that makes... We also track buildings, and that's what we were
Oh yeah.
So basically, it was saying if it's don't return a town, and we're very clearly trying to check the town of something that's not a worker.
And we are not restart, and we forget to restart StarCraft in time again.
So, whoops, and I didn't make us Protoss. So that doesn't help either.
Maybe set up auto menu?
The one spot that would probably help is with the race picking. Where? Oh, there we go. We are still not building though.
Yeah, definitely not.
That's still null.
So we managed to break that
Oh.
the stuff that was working.
Yeah, just because we didn't actually loop through the buildings to compare them. Very easy to forget little things that you should be doing. Okay. So it's... I probably don't need to exit all the way out of... I probably need to exit out of that game, but... It's just that F10 EXX, I think it is just kind of like built into my muscle memory.
Yeah, mine too.
Okay, now town is actually something. And now we're going to train the probe. Okay.
Are you sure, my dear sir?
Yes.
Oh yeah, it does the beep boop.
It does the beep boop indeed. Okay. Now we can get back to trying to actually build a building.
Oh, that's another can of worms.
Yes. So what I was thinking of doing is setting up...
Before we do that, do we have a limit for desired workers? We do have that. But do we check that we don't overtrain? Like we only train that many workers? I don't think we do that yet.
No, we do. So we have if we found a valid town for the resource depot. And
there,
size is
okay.
less than the desired workers. And we're only worrying about...
but wait, if we have 100 minerals, then we will train 2. We can still overtrain because we don't really account for the units in production.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, we don't have a global counter. So we could do a global hard limit or something like that just by doing like...
Or we can have in the town have something called workers in production.
Well, I know we are checking for supply, so we're good there. We're not going to try and train if our supply is not going to work.
Yeah, but if one is, but supply does not get occupied for the second unit in the training queue.
I see what you're saying. With what we have set up, it's not going to queue because we're checking if the building is idle. Are we going to do a train order?
Okay.
But we should worry about our count of probes. So this should be probe type, because we could easily, if we expand enough, we could end up using 120 supply on probes, for example. So let's just cap us at 60 globally for now. So we'll never have more than 60 probes. Maybe that's a poor metric, but that can always be tweaked later. So for managing placing buildings and what we want, what I was thinking we can do is a map. Actually, probably don't even need. Actually, yeah, I don't even think we need this job class, because what we can do is just do.
You're taking our jobs.
Unit type as a key, and then we can do a vector of ints.
In the meantime, I was thinking a little bit more about the general strategy. I think like 1 or 2 gateways zealot rush could be something that we can achieve in relatively short time.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that we've already been live for 2 hours and all we have is a bot that can mine.
Yeah.
But I think.
Yeah, go on.
I think maybe within the next like hour we can get it to plop down a couple gateways and some probes and then and pylons and start pumping out zealots. Because I'm not going to worry about building placement. I'm just going to use the built-in BW API get build location function. But what I'm thinking we'll do for the build order that we want to do here is with a map. So what we'll track with this is this will allow us to do some specific timings. Where if we add unit types to this map and then we fill in this vector, it'll say, okay, so I want this at these supplies. Are these supply conditions met? Let me go ahead and find a worker to build this unit type. And then if there's no ints in for the unit type, then it just knows, okay, I'm not going to try and build any of those. And then later you could expand on that to make it a bit more freeform, like once it's built everything or once it reaches a certain point, it just builds pylons or supply based on some conditions and such. Let's go ahead though and kind of fill this in, and I think it'll make a little bit more sense. So we can do that just on start. Let's go ahead, build our build order. So we'll do. Wait, what did I name it? Wait, where did I even type that? I put it in the wrong thing. That's why I'm confused. I was looking at town and I want this to be in our bot. So we can do build order types, Protoss pylon, oops. We'll call this job. I only need to do it by reference. Then we can do job dot second or job dot push back. Let's say we want our first pylon at 7.
According to the Liquipedia, you should have it at 8.
Okay.
And they are never wrong.
What's the next building? Or when's the next pylon, I should say?
Let me look that up. I think it's the gateway at 10 and the second gateway at 15.
Oh, those are the gateways. Okay.
But it really doesn't matter, to be honest.
We only get one pylon, right? And then we get pylons as we need them for supply.
Yes.
Okay. So that was what, 10 and 12?
10 and 15, I believe.
Oh, okay.
The gateways.
10 and 15. Okay. Um. Cool. So that'll be our build. Now we just need to work out how we want to get it to execute that. Which is going to be an on frame, which is above on start. And so let's see.
No, I was wrong. 8 pylon, 9 gateway, 10 gateway. I was looking at a different build, but doesn't really matter. But yeah,
Okay.
8, 9, 10, and then produce as many zealots as we can.
Okay, and we stop producing probes?
I think yes, because this is a rash strategy. So either it works or you lost.
Okay.
Or what we can maybe do is just only train a probe if we have enough, like prioritize zealots, and if all the two gateways are training, and we have enough minerals on top of that, then maybe we can train another probe.
Yeah, I mean, something else that we can do too is, I don't know if we'll really implement it here, but we can have something like this, like another map, where it's unit types with a bowl. And then basically this would say, if this is enabled, go ahead and train it. If this is not enabled, don't train it. So if there's like a hard or a point where we want to cut off training of a particular unit type, we could make this false, and then any checks on that would stop the probe from training.
Yeah, and you can decouple it from this logic, and you can just set this externally anytime.
Right. So what I'm going to do now is, before we start looping buildings, I'm going to loop through this new job map that we've started, which is our build order, to see if there's any buildings that need to be built. That was a little bit repetitive, but let's see here. So we're going to do build order, and then if job dot second dot size, or we'll do auto supply job dot second dot size. And we could do this other ways too. We could, when we're looking at free workers, we could see if there's a valid job. We can look at loop through the build order and see if there's a job that we need to take care of.
Isn't the free we have free workers and guest workers? That kind of implies that all the free workers are in mining minerals, right?
Yeah.
So
Or
basically,
yeah,
basically, if the worker is idle, then go mine minerals. But we want to get a mineral worker to build our buildings.
right.
Asking.
Oh wait. I'm trying to think of the best way to do this. So if dot size 4 into I 0 I is less than. Actually, I could probably just. I don't need that if. I can just do it this way. I plus plus.
In the meantime, I'm thinking about how to verify if building is complete or building is started building. I wrote an article about transitions, and there are many ways building a building can fail. And yeah, we have to keep track of our buildings built, that's for sure. I would, yes, I would say maybe if we are working in towns, we can assign the buildings to that town as well. What do you think? Do we want to do that?
Yeah, I was going to assign buildings to towns, because then what we'll do for our macro is when we're looping through all of them, at least the macro buildings, when we're looping through the buildings of each town, then we can make our macro decisions like training probes or training zealots and such. Let's see, all unit count. No, I want. Is it all unit count?
And
Yeah.
eventually we might want to have a global counters for units as well. Sorry, I know it's hard to code and answer my questions at the same time.
That's no problem.
I myself am a very bad multitasker.
Well, it's taken me a little bit to get more into the swing of it. Usually when I do like programming or something, when I first start with a stream, my brain has trouble juggling the two tasks of, managing the stream or anyone else, or talking with anyone else that I'm streaming with versus programming. But we've been going for a little while now, so
no, it's fine. It's fine. But like when you're in the zone and really concentrating on the sub problem, it can be disturbing too, or disrupting when someone asks you something.
Yeah. So what I'm doing here,
especially that bitch Karen from HR. Fuck you, Karen. Yes, let's continue.
So I'm looping through that map that we did for each job that is in it, and I'm saying, okay, let's look at the list of integers that we have, which essentially are supply timings, and they're in order. So like if there's two for the gateways, for instance, they're going to be at index 0 and index 1. So I'm first checking, whether it's completed or not, how many of that object do I have, and is it less than 1 plus its index, because the first one's at 0, so that would be 1. So if I already have one gateway, for instance, this will be 1. I plus 1, which would be 0 plus 1, will be 1. This won't be true, so I know that job is taken care of. But I also need to check, am I at the right supply? So I should do and
eventually you need to delete from that job list, right?
No, it can just loop through, because I have this check here. It'll say, oh, okay, I already have one of those. So that way, like for instance, I mean, you're probably done for anyway if your gateway gets destroyed. But if something from earlier in the build order gets destroyed, it'll still see, oh, this is a potentially valid job. I should build it. So self-supply U is,
I guess that could work, yeah.
Greater than or equal to job.second sub I. So now here I'm saying, oh wait, I gotta multiply this by 2 times 2, because when we set this up, we did this with what the player sees versus what Brood War sees. So now I'm saying, okay, so if we have less than the items we want for this job, or based on this job, and we are at or greater than the supply that we want for this job, we're going to want to find a worker. So let's go ahead and, how do we want to do? Oh wait, we were already storing our start town, so we can just use that for this. So if we do start, if start town, free workers dot size. I don't care if it's carrying minerals for right now, but that was checks that we could do. Then let's do auto.
That's more like an optimization thing.
Yeah,
I would grab a worker that has just returned the mineral as well. Yeah. I mean, you could dive deep into that, like the best worker to build a building, which is just at that exact moment return the resource to the resource depot, right?
Potentially.
Because otherwise it already spends some time going toward the minerals or gases. That's not good. If it's gathering, that's also not good. And if it's carrying minerals, it needs to return that minerals back. Or maybe an easy heuristics could be, if it's not gathering, you need to grab the closest one that is the closest to the resource depot, which is not carrying minerals or gas. This got me thinking a little bit. Which is the best builder, boy?
Oh, another thing that we should do too is check that we actually have the money for it. Now there's optimizations that can be added here as well. Like you can grab a worker or start a job.
And we should take care that only one worker is on one job at a time. Do we have that here? I don't think we do.
At the moment, no. But yeah, we should add that. We also need a way to stop training probes when we hit a job that we want to do.
Don't we have that with the desired workers check?
Not yet, no, because desired workers is 2 times the amount of minerals in a town.
Ah, okay, right.
So this is where sometimes like I start tracking the number of buildings on my own. What we should probably do.
What I would do is just have a map with unit type and a counter, updated when a unit is completed and destroyed.
Well, that gets. I mean, you can just use WAPI functions for that, like get unit count or all unit count, and then pass it a type, and it'll give you what you have, whether it's in production, and then you can use completed unit counts to get the number completed.
Yeah, but that loops through all your units, and with the map, it would be faster if you just update on creation and destroy. But it doesn't matter that much at this point.
I'm thinking what we'll do is we'll have an in-progress map that we will then set to.
And also, regarding build orders or jobs, how I would approach it is have a state of the job, which represented by an enum or something, which I mean planned, started, completed, or restarted or something. But that's probably due my background that I think of it that way.
Wait, this would be I.
Because we are dipping into build order representations at the moment, which is another huge topic, and there are a lot of ways you could approach it. Especially because every build order management needs to take into account BW API's failings, and like, okay, you want to build a gateway, but there is 1,000 ways why you can't build a gateway right now, and you have to handle all of them.
Yep, and another thing, not only that, you need to make sure that you don't spam 5 Evo chambers or 5 forges. Or observatories actually is the easiest one to accidentally spam with Protoss because it's just such a cheap building in terms of minerals. So what I'm doing right here real quick, I think I can make, is this not? Dot first, and then if not iter or if iter equal. It's in progress.end. So I'm checking first here. I set up an in progress map, and I'm saying if this unit type is already in progress, I'm also going to need to check that I'm going to want to stop because I don't want to tell another unit to build this. Or if it is in
what if we add a worker pointer to the job object?
well, right now the job is just a unit type paired with a as a key that we want to build, paired with a list of integers essentially of when we want to build them. So there's nothing wrapping around it. I was thinking about doing a wrapper initially, but I was thinking we could get away without doing that. Second. So it's in there, and that is equal to job.seconds sub I. Okay. So we want to do.
I'm a little bit lost. What are you trying to accomplish here? I mean, what's the logic here? I know what you're trying to accomplish, but what's the logic? Like from the you iterate through the jobs, yeah, and if
Yeah.
it and then
So I'm going through each job, and then I'm going through each integer in that job's list. And I'm checking, and I could probably reorder these a little, but I'm saying, okay, in counting incomplete units, do I have less than the index of this current integer that I'm looking at? So, for example, index 0 is the first job. Like that's going to be the lowest number that I want one of those built at. So if my all unit count is 0, my index is say 0 plus 1, which would make it 1, then I know, okay, this is a job that I'm going to potentially want to build. Then I need to check, is this at the right supply, which is the integer that I'm looking at, times 2, being less than or equal to the supply currently used. Then I'm checking, do I have enough minerals to build this unit type? Do I have enough gas to build this unit type? If all of that's true, now I need to check, is there a job currently in progress trying to plop one of these down? So I have an in-progress map that can track any number of jobs that I need. And I'm saying, find this unit type. If it exists, so it'll equal the end of this map if it doesn't exist. So if it does exist in the in progress, and should be an and, not an or, what I found, the supply that I want to build at matches the supply of the job I'm currently looking at, that would mean this job is in progress, don't do anything else.
what happens if two jobs have the same supply count?
Then we would be, that should be fine if the unit types are separate. If the unit types are the same, then we would have a problem.
Yeah, because it can be, it is possible, and we will have a problem because imagine we want to add like zealots maybe, but a few pylons at the same time. That can easily happen.
Yeah, another thing that could be rough too is removing jobs from the in progress. That might be a little bit tricky, but with the build order that we're going for, in progress should only ever have one thing in it. So we should be okay for our purposes here.
Yeah, that's true. A little bit hard coding then, but yeah, we should keep that in mind if we ever extend this bot.
Yeah.
The way I would approach it, and I'm not saying that you should do this or this is wrong or anything, but I would handle all this logic in the job object. Like I just call the job objects, some method on the job object that says, am I ready to be done? But like I said, that's not a better way to do it, just a different one.
Yeah, another thing that we should add to is another tracker in town, not free workers. Because we should say when we tell this guy, okay, build, we now want to add you to the not free workers and remove you from the free workers because you're not free anymore. Not free workers. Push back. And then I'm not sure how to go about deleting him from easily. Because there's no find with vector. No, we can worry about that a little bit later. Because what we could do too is when we're looping through here, we could say, hey, if there's anybody that happens to belong in actually we can do it right now. If we do if start town dot free workers dot size, inefficient, but it'll work. Oh wait, no, because we're still in a loop there. Yeah, that's not an iterator loop. Well, we'll worry about it later and see how bad it breaks things now. So let's just see with this mess that we've written what happens.
That always works. Chat has been silent for a while. I'm just looking at it. I guess we are getting into the nitty-gritty now.
Oh wow, it is going slow at speed 0.
What is hogging our resources, I wonder? And we have a memory leak somewhere.
That's pretty funny. We've been so inefficient.
Yeah. No, we definitely have a memory leak, as you can see in the process bar.
Nah, it's not growing. It's just sitting at a particular, at 17 megabytes.
Oh, okay, I thought it was growing. Then no memory leak, but still, why are we so slow?
Probably because we're being very inefficient with this.
And not at the, I mean, at this level, it shouldn't be. This will take some time.
I'm just wondering if it's going to build even the first pylon.
Yeah, me too. Me too. Let's wait for that. And we don't have.
It did try, but it didn't have enough minerals.
Yeah, because we are making probes in the meantime.
Oh, there we go.
We are. Oh, nice. We have a pylon.
And
Actually,
now will we keep building pylons? Or... Here, let me. This might actually make it run a little bit slower if I do the 2 times, but. I think I can do.
frame skip.
I think that's a command or something like that. Maybe it's FS or something. Are we gonna? Oh, looks like we're trying to build another pylon. Yep.
So it works, but it is horribly inefficient. Do you have some kind of diagnostics tool that can debug this?
It didn't quite work because we did build a second pylon, which is not what we wanted.
Isn't it?
No, we wanted 1 pylon and 2 gateways.
Oh yeah. Then I think the what might happen is the job queue is getting spammed. Like you overpopulate the job queue. Somewhere you add items too many times, and it grows to a very large collection. That would
Yeah, I'm
explain both of our issues.
wondering, looking at the time, thinking we can,
Time for some code scene investigation.
well, I was thinking even, actually, wait, no, that's the wrong spot. Let's go ahead and just make an if bot here for the time being. Was trying to be a little fancy build order, but it's not quite working the way I was thinking it would work in my head. I think we do need a custom class for the job, like you said, to do a little bit of additional tracking. So what we can do then instead, even before we go through our work, we can make our, I don't want to call it a macro loop necessarily, but build order loop. Or not even loop, but build order checks. So if
I bet Impy is very happy now.
I was thinking of him when I was like, let's just go with if statements for now.
The master of if statements.
Because what I would probably do if I were going to spend the time to troubleshoot that, just to give my thought process here, I would probably put a break on this line here where we get the iter from the in progress job list, and then check what are the returns of all of these conditions. What are all these evaluating to? Like, why is this true? Why is that true? Especially when we built the second pylon. Because I would want to know why this condition wasn't stopping the second pylon from being built. But maybe because there is a difference between unit count and completed unit count, and that warping in pylon should have returned a 1 here. So I'm not quite sure why it built a second one. But just looking at the time, it's like, if we want to try and at least beat the AI, we should probably do something like that. That approach did not work.
Yeah, we a little bit overthought that maybe.
Yeah.
But it's okay if we don't achieve that goal today. I mean,
yeah, it doesn't.
But we still have time, and I think I'm positive about this. We can do something.
Yeah, and this, I mean, the whole point of the stream is process in the development and such, and I think we've done a pretty good job of that so far.
Yeah, me too. I mean, the aim is if a complete beginner watches the stream, he or she can relate and learn something. And I think the goal is kind of achieved here.
I'm gonna this up here. Just to save myself on some typing here.
Sometimes I do this, but in the end, I always decide that no one is getting hurt if if my code is a little bit longer. And when you're reading your code back, like equals unit type, it is clear what I meant. If I use stuff like this, like little shorthands, I can get confused.
Yeah, well, that's why I try to hear, like, I've, instead of naming it like P or PT or something like that, like I've explicitly wrote out pylon type. So
Yeah,
that
I'm not
is,
saying you're wrong.
but I get what you mean though, because a lot of, like, I have some loops where I'm doing like U or W or something like that, and it could be confusing. Well, what does U mean in this part of the code? Sometimes you can kind of get a little lost if you do names like that. So we're still gonna want some of this.
As much as I would love to call my variables like a galactic pizza doggo and stuff, it is not good coding practice. It's galactic pizza doggo time.
Okay, so that will still build the pylon. And to stop us from spamming buildings, I'm going to say, so I'm saying if the conditions for pylon are met, which is supply greater than or equal to 8, we don't have a pylon at all, and we have the money for it, and we don't have any workers that are busy, that are not free. So that's kind of quick and dirty. That doesn't say, well, is that not free worker actually doing our job or not? But this should work for our purposes because we're not going to be building multiple buildings at the same time.
Preferably.
Yeah. So now if actually I can probably just copy this and modify it. So if we do auto gateway type, sell it, or not sell it, gateway. I was thinking ahead about the zealots we're going to have to train.
Unfortunately, the IDE is not that smart.
Yeah. Or fortunately.
I wonder what would happen, yeah.
Gateway, so we wanted one at, what was it, 9? And I just remembered that I got to multiply these by 2, so that's actually 18. That's 16. We're also going to want to do an OR here. So that. Oh, wait, actually, no. We'll do these as separate. That'll just be easier. It's less than 1. Town. Then we're going to do the same stuff here, except do gateway type. And then gateway type. Copy this and modify this to be 2. And then this was at 10, so this should be 20. Okay, so now we just need some logic to take workers out of the not free workers, which we can do here. Oh, wait.
Shouldn't we have a different role for them or something? Like, not free workers, but building workers. So you just assign a free worker to now, dude, now you are on construction duty.
Yeah, that's what the not free workers is implying, that it's doing something other than mining minerals, something that I don't want to necessarily interrupt.
Yes, but I was thinking it is too broad. But anyway, let's go ahead. Let's see how we. I mean, for the moment, it will work perfectly, I feel.
This will be. See, what this is a good example of is crunch time coding.
Yes, absolutely.
Where you start doing terrible practices just to get to the end product that you wanted, right? Since what I'm setting myself up here for now is a loop through a vector where I'll be able to delete while looping through it, which is generally something that you need to be very careful of because it's very easy to crash when you do that. It's better to avoid doing that, but that's what I need to do. Start free workers .end. Then we're gonna break. So if we're at the end of the list, then just stop looping. Otherwise, if why can't I access the units? Why?
But to look on the flip side, the construction logic kind of worked otherwise. Like we found a spot and a building was getting created there. So that's, however small, its progress.
Right. And I'm also going to do some cheating here on the construction. So if our worker is idle, I'm going to assume that it's finished its job, which will get us in trouble if our base was more crowded. But since we're not going to have a very crowded base, we should be okay.
What happens if we just don't have enough minerals? And then the worker becomes idle as well.
You know what? Let's do something then in our on start where we determine the desired number of workers. Yeah, we would want it to do something like this, generalized. Only doing a rush. How many probes do we want? 8. Oh, actually, it would be fine because if it becomes idle because the job fails, then that probe is going to return as a free worker. And then we'll just see, oh, the conditions are still met for that job. Let's find a new worker.
So multiple workers can assign to the same job which we want to avoid, right?
Not at the same time. Because we check, when we're checking to pick a worker to build a building, we're saying, is there anybody that's currently doing something other than mining minerals or gas? And if there is, then we're not going to issue a new build request. We're only doing it when we don't have somebody building something. So if they fail to build a building and go idle and take them loop and send them back to mining minerals, it should be fine because we'll go back and grab another probe and just reissue that build order. It's not efficient and it'll slow things down potentially, but it'll still get that building built.
Okay, go for it. Yeah, next time I don't agree with something, I should just make passive aggressive comments, because that's constructive and always helps, right? I mean, it's not bad, but stuff like this.
I mean, like I said, and I agree with you. It's not the best approach, but it should get the job done.
Yeah, and it is an actual example of bot development. You or anyone will not follow the best practices all the time. That's just how the way it is.
Yeah, and sometimes you just do what you need to do to get something done at first, and then you can go back and improve upon it.
Yep. Like I often say, let's make it work, then make it pretty. Of course, that would imply that you are not intentionally going in the other direction. Like you should write code that can be improved.
Oops. This needs to be free workers. Free. Okay, and this should also the worker out of free workers. We should probably also have a check here to make our free workers at the town, but since this is such a simple script, we shouldn't need to. Okay, let's see if we build our structures.
It is launch time.
So let's see if we run release. Okay, it looks like we're running at a better now.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Except now we're not getting probes at all. So why are we no longer getting probes?
8-hour bot jam. That's an interesting idea. Okay, let's get back. We are not building buildings, if I'm not mistaken.
Because we're not training probes anymore.
Why don't we do that?
See, we did change our assignment of desired workers, but we made that, what, 8, I think it was? Where did we? Yeah, so that should be fine. So let's put a breakpoint there and see why. Yeah, something like a 8-hour, even like a day's worth of like build a bot in a day and then have it compete would be kind of cool. Town. Free workers.
It could be called AICT AI Crunch Tournament.
So we already think that we have 8 workers.
But we don't. Could that be that you count the workers twice somehow? Because you have 8, the supply is double, so maybe you count the workers based on supply. Just brainstorming here, but that's a wide idea that's come to mind.
No, because this is free work particular.
Yeah, and those are units, so no.
Yeah. Oh. Okay, I see why. So when we we're doing some early building out the towns, we were grabbing our free workers in there and our building in there. I think we need to do the building, but not the workers, because we have on unit complete that we add workers.
Yep.
So that's why we're double counting. And actually, we would have to add a little bit of logic for the building, but I think we're going to need to do that anyway. So
Probably we were doing this double counting and it like in the past
earlier,
as well.
I just didn't notice it. Yeah.
Mr. Meatshield asks, wait, what was your test? I don't know what is that question referring to. What is the can produce verifying here, or what is the intent behind that if statement?
For right now, I just want to track the macro things, so I don't care about pylons or if this was Terran like supply depots. I just want to grab like the nexus and the gateways, and if we were to produce like robotics or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
If we were to add like forges and stuff, I could maybe get rid of that condition. I could track the tech and research buildings separately if I wanted to.
Is that some dog barking in the background?
On my side,
Probably, yeah.
don't think there's a dog barking.
Sounded like that. Maybe the galactic doggo is barking at us from the sky. I don't know.
There may have been. I just heard a dog bark just a moment ago. So okay, so what I'm doing here now is on unit complete. So if it is a building and it can produce units, I'm saying get the town that matches the resource group of the closest mineral, and then add that building to that town. And then up here, let's do if you type
But will that work when the mineral fields are depleted?
if there's absolutely no mineral field left, it would probably break because I'm not checking for null pointer.
Yep. But we are not planning on reaching that stage, right?
Right. Hit the wrong arrow keys. Now I need a zealot type, which I'll add in a minute. Protoss Zealot. Okay. So now if we have gateways, this should start pumping them out. The only other thing that we really need to do is just a general rule for building pylons. Let's copy this if here. And modify it so create a total one. Supply use is less than or equal. Self total minus we'll do 6. So that's 3 zealots away from being out of supply. Go ahead and this will. Is there a incomplete unit count?
I'm trying to follow your train of thought, but I lost a little bit. What are you trying to verify here?
Okay, so what I'm adding here really quick, because what we had before, it should get a pylon and then 2 gateways and then start pumping zealots, but that would be all it would do. So it'd be very limited in how many zealots it can get. So this is now a general rule that's saying if we already have a pylon and our supply used is less than or is at the point where we can only get 3 more zealots, is what this is saying.
Okay.
And we don't have any incomplete pylons, so we're not already constructing a pylon. And we have the money for it, and there's no worker assigned to build something. Assign a worker to build that pylon. So this isn't going to do anything with the zealots that we are in theory going to produce, but let's see. Oh,
I'm curious how it will turn out.
Oh, that's a function, not a member. I tend to do that. I tend to do that a fair bit. Oops, stop. I did not want you to build.
You have lost 1 good boy point.
Oh, that was still running. Stop. Let's rerun. Start StarCraft. Try 0 speed. Oh, and we crashed.
We kinda expected that result. The important thing is keep our heads high and carry on. Do we have any info about the crash, by the way?
It was in this loop, so it looked like we were assigning workers to build stuff, but oh, I bet I know. I bet we need to come up here, do if, because I wonder if we're spamming orders too often, like before latency can update. But then they shouldn't have been.
I don't think that's the issue here.
I'm thinking that this might not be, but that is something that we were doing, is we were spamming commands every single frame. Oops, and then make us Protoss. And we weren't connected to it anyway, it looks like, so. Yeah, we weren't, for whatever reason.
Let's just restart everything.
Unable to open communication pipe. Okay, still getting that out of the console. Okay, now we're back to game mapping table not found and connect. Okay. Oh, well now our drawing is going to flicker. But that does mean that we're only executing every so many, which is good to see. And yeah, we still
That's
crash.
not really a problem, yeah. And that's not really our problem here as well.
Yeah. So let's do a debug point in the first part where we're going to build something and see what all is happening when we actually try to build something.
And the drone is not doing anything. Or was that after we disconnected?
That may have completed after we crashed. Yeah, extra balance is fine. Toss. Okay. So we assign the worker, iter. We delete out of free workers. The free worker size is now tick, which should be correct, it looks like. And then we tell it to build. And then we add it to not free workers, which is now size 1. Those are not true. Okay, and then we tell the free workers that are idle to gather. So let's now break up here on the next frame that we execute and see what happens here. So iter is set to the start of that, which is size 1. We grab the unit it points to. It's not idle. That should equal end, and we break out. So that's fine. We don't tell it to build the pylon again. Do we have the? We don't have the money for the build, so that might be part of the problem.
Should we implement some kind of reserving of resources, maybe? Or what we can do, which is quite simple, is just have a priority queue for everything we want to build. So we don't bother. We just make, I don't know, 8 probes, pylon, 2 gates. I know, but that's maybe too hard coding. Now, let's just try to track down this issue first. I believe.
I think if I cut the probes down to just 7 instead of 8.
Yeah, because we are building at the same time as we want to build the pylon as well.
Yeah, it's like ending up like on the same frame, saying, "Oh, okay, I can build a gate or a pylon, and I can build a probe." So let's see if we change that. Oh, I've got it now where it can't connect. No.
No building. Not crashing, but not building either. So, what we did since the last crash?
We just changed the desired workers down to 7 instead of 8. Which it did stop producing probes, which is good. But the build failed for some reason. You know what? Let me reorder these a little bit. Let's say, because I think build returns a boolean. So we can add a check in here. Say if this returns true, then go ahead and do this stuff.
What's the intention behind that?
So if our build request fails, then the worker is still a free worker. And we don't consider any worker as not free.
Okay.
So that way it will recheck this condition. This last check here, whoops, will be true because it's not size, so it'll be 0 or not 0. And so if the build request fails at the time we issue the order, it will try again. I don't know why it would be failing there, but and just to double check things, we'll put a breakpoint in here. Make sure I closed brute or. I did. I'll just do bottleneck. So, what about this is failing? Oh.
What do you see?
I didn't adjust for the fact that we
Oh yeah, the supply used, yeah. In the meantime, I need another 5-minute break. I don't know, do you need a break?
I'm good.
Okay, then I will be back and feel free to progress further. Alright, I'm back. So, let's see if we finally... that looks like a crash. Yes.
Oh, I forgot something important when you're erasing while looping with an iterator. You have to set the iterator to return of the erase because that's what increments it to the next thing. Otherwise, it's garbage.
Dime.
But we did go to try and build
Yeah, the brave little probe was going to build the pylon.
And then we died.
At least he tried.
Although we got an 8th probe, which is
weird.
interesting. I wonder if it has something to do... Wait, where's our... So we say if... We're checking free workers' size. I wonder if that's not increasing at the time we want it to, when that last one builds.
That is probably what's happening, yes. Yeah, you execute this loop one more time before that, right?
Well, that should increase when we get the unit complete. So maybe that should move to unit create. But
I mean, let's check how many probes we have in the end, because if it's just 8, that's fine. But if it keeps building probes, that's not fine.
so yeah, so it failed to try and build the first pylon. Ooh.
And we are there is the pylon, but we are very slow
Yeah,
now.
but we have a terrible... Oh, I bet it's trying to build the gateway each frame, but that pylon's not complete.
Okay, let's wait for it to complete and see if we have a gateway then. Yeah, because we don't actually... maybe we should add the can build or something. There is a BW API check for if you can build it or not. Yeah, it was most likely 2 pylons, 2 gateways. Why do we have 2 pylons?
Because we keep hitting the condition of needing another pylon, although that's not quite...
Yeah, because we don't check if we have another pylon in progress as well. Yeah, I mean that's fine.
I do have a check for incomplete pylons, but
not planned pylons. Like if a worker is already trying to do it, but
it will check that, because if, well, not particularly for a pylon itself being built, but if a worker is trying to build anything, it won't send a worker to build something else.
Okay, but
we are getting zealots, and we survived the first wave.
Yeah, and I bet if we would have just sent the zealots to attack, we might have even won this game.
Yeah, so now we need to do a loop for military units.
Let's add that check for the gateway first, or well, every building if we can actually build it. Let's see. Let's only assign, or let's only try to build a gateway if the prerequisite buildings are built.
Yeah, so we just need to have a...
Wait, no, that's actually not what's happening. What's happening is we don't have a place to build it, because we don't have the psionic matrix set up.
Right.
We can build a gateway, we just can't build it anywhere.
We just have to make sure that we have at least one completed pylon.
Yes, but that's... Yeah, for now it will suffice, but in the long run that's not quite what we want.
Yeah, I mean, in the long run, we don't want to use get build location either. But
yeah, that's true. Okay, for this build order, this will work.
Yeah, I mean, I would probably whip something up based on regions or something like that if I wasn't using a terrain analysis long term. Oops, I need to add an and here, and an and here. So that should fix the massive slowdown, and then we can just do a U or self get units. If you get type zealot type, let's auto enemy units get or get closed units to you get position. Look for filter oops, is enemy. Do we need another? The radius is fine. Oh, well, if is idle. So get the closest enemy, if not enemy unit. So if we don't find any,
Yeah, but we don't actually have scouting.
attack to. All right, we'll need to do. So this will only work really for a 2-player map, but should be fine. Auto. If we can at least win a 2-player map in the next like 30 minutes, I'll be happy, or at least attack.
Yeah, well, we could just visit all the base locations.
That's true. We could probably put something to go between them. Thing is, I need to be careful that I'm not attacking my own, which is what I'm putting in here. So if location is not equal to self or location, then you attack. Need to cast it and I can break out of this loop. Oh, I called it location. There we go. Okay, and then if we did find an enemy unit,
and we don't wait for a certain zealot count, we just sending them into the fray as soon as they are completed. Yeah, that's fine.
It's more exciting that way. So let's just see how this performs now. Let's go with speed 2 maybe. So it's slightly watchable. We'll just for now. And it's still getting a pylon down there. I need to change the condition on. It's gonna trap.
Yeah, there are kinks in the plan that needs to be worked out. But there is attacking.
Yes.
That's it. Slow it down. Now. Slow it down.
I did. It's just double speed now.
Yeah, awesome.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's a delay. I forgot. But yeah, so if that didn't happen,
yeah,
well, trapper for zealots.
Yeah, those zealot boys would have been useful, but it seems to me that the locations are the exact same as we had last time.
Yeah, which kind of makes sense because
yeah, the get location is deterministic.
Yeah. So let's just try a different map then. It's not as like that's still 2-player, but less likely to cause that type of problem. Do benzene. And see how it plays out. Protoss. Still need to fix the condition on that pylon, but okay, we got rushed.
Yes.
And
we will lose, but well,
we might
no.
We might actually win this fight. Because I told
this fight, yes. This fight, yes, but oh no, this is actually well, not a very well timed, but a possibly effective counterattack. So
computer's going to take a little bit of time to recover from that 5 pull it does. And the only reason we really survived that is because I told it either attack the extent unit to you or go after the start location if there's no unit found. So that way we actually defended ourselves. So let's see what happens here. Although our zealots might get dumb and chase after the overlords.
Yeah, we don't have a can attack stuff here, just attack, right? But it's no. We might win this.
They're just ground attacks, and I didn't put a filter for is not flying when I was choosing targets.
We might win this. We might just win this. Awesome.
See, in like 3 hours and 10 minutes, bot coded that can beat the stalking.
Yes.
Maybe not reliably, but
no, it is like very not efficiently, not every time, but it can be done.
Let's speed it up a little bit more. See that sweet victory screen. Now let's see if we get something else, if it can win or not. Let's try a couple games and see.
Yeah. But I mean, if we narrow down our goals a little bit, let's say this map and this race, we can confidently say that we achieved that.
So let's try again. So I do speed 1 instead of speed 0. That's still kind of... I'll just be ready to slow it down when...
Bytekeeper is asking what is causing the text flickering.
That's because I have the debug call on the on-frame call, and I limited the on-frame to only be every latency frame. So this text is only getting written every latency frame, and I just haven't fixed it. So let's see, what are we up against? Protoss or Terran? Protoss. So this will probably not be a win.
No, I think the stock AI is a little bit better at zealot rushing than we are.
It does get 3 gateways instead of 2, and continues to get probes. So.
And not attacking in a conga line like we do.
Yeah. But hey, we made something that did something.
Yes.
Somewhat intelligent. So
I think I've seen worse players on the ladder, so it's okay.
I'd say this is something at least for the stream. I was starting to get worried that we were gonna get nothing.
Absolutely, it's small victory. You have to appreciate that.
Let's just zoom it up to speed 0.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we will lose. Yeah, that's like 10 zealots coming. Oh no, they are coming. Oh lord.
All right, let's go ahead and try against Terran and just see.
Yeah, I'm curious how it turns out.
And actually, before I do that, I do want to fix this to say... So this is our general condition for building pylons. Or no, not incomplete. I just want all count of gateway type is 2. So basically what I'm saying there is don't start our general rule for pylons until we have 2 gateways, either constructing or completed. So that way we won't plop down that early pylon.
Yep.
And I'm leaving the flickering text in.
That's just how we roll now.
Yeah. Actually, let's try... Benzene kind of has the long rush distance too, so let's try destination.
Yeah, we are benefiting from short rush distance now. I guess.
There's one gateway, there's the other gateway, and now pile.
You mean
Yeah, that
pylon?
helped. Or, well, yeah.
And the first zealot is on the way.
Okay, now we'll go back to speed 24. See, this is one of my favorite parts of bot development. It's like, I built something that does something, let's see what it does.
Yeah, and you can iterate and improve and have some sense of success finally.
Exactly.
It's
So
not chasing null pointers anymore.
Right. I have a feeling this might eventually win.
I have no idea at this point. I don't think we will, because we have a pretty bad economy. But never say never. No, we can win this.
The stock Terran AI is not necessarily the best when it comes to defending itself against zealot rushes, because it doesn't have any micro.
Yeah. And we even, yeah, that's a pretty simple logic you added. It even adjusts. So that's nice. Did we just freeze?
It's still going for me. The stream looks like it's still going.
That's interesting. No, it looks like frozen.
Oh, I can try. Oh, you know what? Yes, it says reconnecting now. So
Okay.
I got disconnected from.
Okay, then let's try that. Maybe Hannes's server just flopped.
Well, I think that's perfect timing, because we've got something that beats the stock Zerg 5.
Not to worry,
And
I have
Terran.
something. So yes, couldn't be have been better timing. So yeah, we achieved that. I think we pretty well demonstrated that it can be done, and I think the coding process was something you could follow. So I will edit this video a little bit down when I upload it to YouTube, like the first like the talking part, but it is quite good. We are almost at 4 hours. Well, just 3.25 if you count the actual coding time. So that's awesome. Okay, then I think, yeah, let's conclude this stream now.
MP, don't feel bad.
Thanks, Bytekeeper. The majority of the work was of course NiteKat, and I think it was great to. The idea was great to start from scratch, and maybe we will continue in the future. And I have to announce that I already have the next stream participant, which is Haupen, and we will do it on next Monday. At least that's the plan. I will clarify the details a little bit later, but it looks like that's the next one. Okay, thank you for being here. I will wait for a few minutes. If you have any questions or such, then I think I will end the stream now. And of course, thank you, NiteKat. It was awesome. I'm really hoping we could continue this sometime.
Yeah, this is definitely a lot of fun. I'd love to continue working on this a little bit. Maybe with a little bit more of a plan in mind for what the target to improve. Because like we said before, starting from scratch, there's a lot of problems to tackle. Now we have specific problems to tackle.
Yep. Okay, it seems we have no questions, so thanks again for watching and see you next time.